Hello, and happy Saturday, April the 29th. Welcome to my Creature Curations. I'm Brian Cullen, if you don't know, and please, if you have any questions along the way, please do not hesitate to ask. Give me a second while I open this up in my browser a little bit more, now that I can see this. Whoops. One more moment. Open this up in my browser a little bit more, now that I can see this. Let's mute that. There we go. Alright, so on tonight's adventure, I'm going to be sculpting a Salazarite from my fantasy world of Revilo. As you can see, I have already cut out a styrofoam base in the shape that I've drawn out. If you look in the lower left or the left-hand side of my screen, you can see the original concept drawing for this critter. And what I did, I got some loose foam. Hey Ray, what's happening? So I started sculpting I carved this out of foam, and then I did a wooden backer that I just got a piece of plywood, and I cut roughly to the back shape, and then I glued it on the back with a bit of Gorilla Glue to kind of hold it in place. That gave it something to anchor down to. And what I'm going to be sculpting with this evening is Magic Sculpt. If you are not familiar with Magic Sculpt, it is a two-part air-drying resin, of which it always makes my eyes kind of swell up. So I tend to wear gloves, and I would recommend you do the same if you don't, if you ever decide to use a little. So what I'm going to do is put on my gloves, and then we're going to break out the Magic Sculpt. It is 1 part resin, 1 part hardening agent, and you mix them in equal parts. Let me pull these gloves on, and if you have any questions along the way, just try and mention them in the chat, and I will do my best to catch them as they pop up on my phone. I can't seem to, before I get my gloves any dirtier, let me just see if I can, see if there's any way for me to view that. When I pop it into full screen, let's see if maybe the notifications will show up that way. I'll see. Okay, so this part is the resin. There are 2 different shades of gray, and this is Magic Sculpt is the material I'm using. I'm going to mix it up in small batches tonight to see how far it goes and see how much I need to add to it. Alright, so I'm going to get a small ball-sized amount of it. I'm going to put the lid back on well, let me get just a little bit more. All I'm seeing is that you're sending a note, but I didn't actually see anything pop up. How are things going with you, Ray? All right, so I've got this small ball of the resin, and then I'm going to pop open the same thing of the hardening agent. Not seem to. There we go. Get the phone stood up. So I had coiled some out before when it had gotten late and I hadn't really mixed them properly. So you can see when holding up the hardening agent and the resin, they're 2 slightly different shades of gray. Alright, so you take these and just kind of roll them into a coil. And once that's all coiled out, you do the other one just the same. And you're going to take the 2 pieces and just kind of twine them together. So you have the hardening agent, the resin, and I like to just kind of twist them together like a cruller donut. And once it's all twisted, then you just kind of have to knead the 2 parts together, because you want to get it so there's no marbleization in the color. You want it to be all one solid gray. Sorry for the sticky sound as it smacks against my gloves. And just going to keep working this through until you get it all to that one solid color. Usually takes a handful of times to go back and forth until it's really worked through. And so I think I'll start out just by blocking the overall shape down once this Magic Sculpt is worked out. And then from there start working on some of the details. I've got pincers that I'm going to put in, and they're going to be a separate element that I kind of cut the rough shape out of with a rigid board material. could all sculpt on top of those, but I figured we should start laying down some magic sculpt on top of this styrofoam just to start getting the feel for what this critter is going to look like. All right. Now, you can still see in the magic sculpt some slight marbleization of the two different grays. You want to keep working that in just a little bit more, because what happens if the two chemicals don't combine, then they're not going to actually, the cure time will react a little bit differently. Hey, Lori, what's happening? How are you doing this evening? Plumber had said that next time you might be awake next time I was doing it, and then I bailed out at the next time just because I was getting ready for a show. Your little tiny car looks amazing. All right, so now it's all completely worked through, and once that's worked through, I'm just going to start flattening it down. Well, thank you. It should. Hopefully, this thing will come together pretty quickly during tonight's episode. All right, I'm just going to lay down a real rough foundation of this magic sculpt on here. It doesn't have to be anything perfect yet. I just want to kind of block it out a bit. And then from here, we'll be able to spray water on it, smooth it all down, start adding details. But one of the things I want to do is when I come along the back side, I want to try and keep it as flush with the wood on the back as I can, because when I do that, it'll keep me from having to sand the back down once it's done, because I want to have a nice and flat surface for when I make the wooden plaque that this will get mounted to. How are things up on the north side of town, Lori? Alright, I'm going to just keep locking this in. And so, most of the time when I make these, I don't usually start with this loose form styrofoam. I usually start with a harder foam that's pre-formed for like an animal for taxidermy. So this is going to work slightly differently, because I'm going to have to put more down as the foundation, I believe. Especially now, I just have to kind of go around and lay the whole thing down. Ooh, grabbed one of the eyes from back there. Grabbed two of the eyes. Excellent. It seems so far away now that we're all super westbound. I lost an eye somewhere along the way. Hang on just a second. Oh, there we are. Don't want to lose the eyes for this critter because I only made just the amount that I needed. I'm going to put a little bit of magic sculpt on the back that turn this guy just a little bit so you can see. Just want to fill in all the holes. And then slide them down here. Thanks for anybody that has shared my video. I do appreciate it. The more people that share, the further this will reach, and the more folks that will see me making the weird stuff that I make. So, okay, still just laying down the foundation of this magic sculpt. As soon as I get all of this stuff worked out, I'm gonna spray it with water and just kind of smooth it down. And after we get all that done, then we'll start really building up the shape and form and start working on textures. But I think we'll get really far tonight because I plan on streaming till, I usually do a 2-hour stream, so I should be working till about 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, in which time we should be able to get a long way on this guy. And so these are like my rendition of these cave crickets that I discovered after moving to Georgia, which is, they were terrifying the first time I encountered them, and I worked them into one of my D&D games. So these guys are now going to be, I'm going to make this first one, and my plan is to make a silicone mold of it, cast them out of resin, and do a Kickstarter campaign to try and get people interested in hanging these smaller beasties on their walls. Okay, I've used all that first small batch of Magic Sculpt already. So now that I've done that, you can see the texture, you see where it's all just kind of messy up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my spray bottle. And the spray bottle is just water. Nothing else on it. It's got a lot of buildup from the Magic Sculpt, all the ones I've sculpted up. I'm going to block the backside just so I'm not spraying my laptop with it. Give it a little bit of water and just kind of smooth things out. And since I'm going to keep working textures into this and building this up, I don't really have to do this now, but just in case for some reason I like where the shape's going and I don't want to do too much more to it, I want to go ahead and give it a smoother finish before I start mixing up more Magic Sculpt. And now Magic Sculpt, you have like an hour to work with it, for me, before it starts to get to the point that I don't like working with it anymore. But I tend to work a little bit faster with the smaller batches that I mix up. Because I'd rather spend a little more, have a little more wiggle room, be able to mix more as I need it. Alright. So as you can see, this is starting to smooth out really quickly. I tend to wear gloves that are as tight as you can get them, because then that way you don't have little creases that are then giving some of the details in the skin or whatever it is that you're sculpting. Lori, are you still doing the glass? Just gonna keep smoothing this out just a little bit more. We'll go ahead and mix up some more Magic Sculpt. For some reason, the big popped-up window on my desktop would show me all the stuff that's on my phone, like when people are chatting and stuff, but it is not doing that. Not so much. Alright, spin this guy around just a little bit. Just blend this stuff in just a little bit more. But when this stuff hardens up, it'll start to set up in an hour, and then usually a handful of hours later, it will really get nice and solid. Yes, I know that feeling of if it would be fun to do it full time. Keep telling myself one of these days it's going to happen. But just got to keep working at it and see if it can take up more time in your life and fill some of the financial aspect of the day job. But that's why I do. Most of this is done early in the morning or late at night. For now. Alright. Just smoothing this stuff in back here as well. I don't like the loose cell styrofoam, really. I don't like how it frays off and stuff, so I try and get a nice fair amount of Magic Sculpt on top, so I don't have to so I'm not accidentally pulling too much of the texture of the styrofoam off. Of course. The creators. Alright, so I've got most of the foundation down on this guy. Let's go ahead and mix up some more Magic Sculpt. If anybody is watching that was not watching before, this time I'm going to grab from the other container. This is the hardener. Just going to pop that open and pull out a bit of this. This bucket is getting close to empty. I think after this guy it'll be time to order another batch, just so that I do not run out. It's always a sad day when you look down and all of your Magic Sculpt is gone, especially if you're in the middle of a project. Never want that to happen. Alright. Another small ball size. I'll go a little bit bigger this time, just because I covered up way more than half of it, but now it'll be time to start putting some of the details in, some of the textures. We're going to want to put that big bony structure coming off the back of his head in. Oh, what's going on? I went outside and was playing with the kids for a little bit, just a little while ago before it got dark, and something about it My eyes were all bugging and itchy. I guess the pollen's getting to me, which doesn't usually happen too much. Thank you, Lori. I really appreciate that. It's been really fun over the past year, pushing the creatures even more forward and getting more into the world building aspect of it, and really starting to work out all the details that make this more of a weird little reality where my imagination can go to and flourish. Okay, so these are about the same size. This one's a little bit bigger, but not by much. And so if you mix them unevenly, so right now I've got the resin that I have a little more of, so that just means it's going to take a little bit longer to harden up, which it's not a huge deal, but since it comes in equal parts, you usually want to mix them at the same ratio just so you don't run out of like hardener or a resin before you run out of the other one. So I'm going to, for anybody that's watching that wasn't watching before, I'm just going to take one of the two and stretch it out into a long coil. We're basically going to mix the two together. Just drop that over there. I'll then do this with same thing with the resin. And I'm sorry, it looks like the broadcast got temporarily interrupted, but we are now back to our regularly scheduled program. All right, so now we've got a coil of hardening agent and a coil of resin. And again, you can see that they're slightly different colors of gray. And we're just going to twist them and twist them and twist them and blend them all together until they are one. Sorry for the sticky sound of the meshing of the magic sculpt. But I know a fair amount of people that use this stuff that don't wear gloves, but I don't know. When you don't really know how things are going to affect you, I think it's always safer to wear some gloves. Almost there. All right. And so for more about this creature, I have a full-body painting, flat painting of this guy up on my website, and talks a little bit about the species. They live in the cavernous systems in the under the mountains of the Perilous Peaks in my world. They can get up to 20 feet in height, depending on their age. Now this one is significantly smaller because this is a younger version of this critter. But I wanted to make one that would be a feasible size to do a mold of and cast. Okay. Almost got this worked out. There's still a little bit of marbleization going on here, so I'm going to keep mixing it together just a bit more. All right. And for anybody that is just now tuning in for the first time, if you like what you're seeing and you're learning anything, please share it with your friends. I sure would appreciate it. Hey, Sean. Ever leave the marbling? No, I don't, because since it's too chemical, like a hardening agent or resin, if they don't mix together thoroughly, then that part's not gonna, as far as I know, that part's not gonna harden up like it should. I mean, I guess over time it would eventually harden, because if you have some magic sculpt laying around in a bucket for way too long, either side, they'll start to get too tough, but I don't want to leave that to chance. Yes, totally part A and part B. And the best part about it is it's a 50-50 ratio, so it's easy to not have to really worry about the math and just get it pretty close. Have you returned home from Spectrum, Sean? All right, gonna put this under here. And this one up here. All right. Got a little bit more to go on the back side and a little bit around the front. Then we'll spray it all down, smooth it out. Then it'll be time to start building up the actual texture and the shapes that we really want to get to. Oops. Haha, awesome, that's great. about getting the art frame. That's wonderful. Alright, and we're getting close on this. And then we'll start spraying it down. Let's look up under here. I want to make sure I got all the parts. Don't want to miss any little bits that I've got some styrofoam sneaking out. Although spraying it down and smoothing it around will definitely fill in any of those voids. Like I got a little crack up here. And a little bit here. All right, there we go. So even though it might look like a Frankenstein patchwork right now, once you spray it down and smooth it all out, it's going to work fine. Even if you let part of it dry and then come back and do more the next day, you can smooth it right into the other and make it all look like it was part of the same sculpt. And anybody else that wasn't watching earlier, I just sprayed it just with a little bit of water. Water goes a long way with the Magic Sculpt. I'm just going to smooth things down quite a bit. Once it's all blended in, and we'll start. I think I'll probably start with the face area, the head area, and then work down the rest of the body. So when working with it, I don't like to go more than like an hour with any one certain area. Now it'll still be soft. Like if I mixed up some on like a bigger piece and worked on it, and an hour goes by and it's harder to pull my tools through and stuff, then I want to stop. But if I come back to it and accidentally bump into it and I've got like a bunch of fur texture or something there, it's still going to be impressionable. It's just not nice, and it's not as easy to pull the tools through. So you probably have a couple hours after that. I just try and be careful and not let my fat hands get in the way of things after an hour, and move on to another batch or an area of it. Like you could still work with it longer, but it makes it tougher. And I like the tools to kind of go through in a smooth way, just because it makes it a lot easier. Less build up getting up on your tools. I'm just going to keep smoothing this down just a little bit more. This doesn't have to be perfect at this point, but once we'll get it. A nice starting work surface. All right. Almost there. And the more details I put in during the sculpting phase, the easier it's gonna be when it comes time to actually doing the painting. Okay, so now I'm gonna look at this, and before I do anything else, I'm gonna step away just for a sec and grab the pincher pieces that I've cut out. So these pinchers that I made, I just cut roughly the pincher shape out of some rigid board material, and I'm going to put a little bit of Magic Sculpt down on top of it. Not a whole lot. And sorry, bumped the camera. Nope. Try and get this better in line. That's not good. Excuse me for just a second while I readjust. How did I do that? Why is my math not working? It's like simulator games where you have to do the opposite. Alright, it's going to happen this time. Sorry about the shaky cam. Nope. Alright, let me just zoom out just a little bit. Should see it. Alright, I don't know what is going on with me and the camera and why I can't see it. Hang on, just one more second. I think it's zoomed in just a little too much. There we go. Alright, sorry about that. Now that all the shaky cam is done, I'll try not to move that too much. So, I grabbed these little pinchers. I cut these out of some, just some rigid board, and I'm just going to lay Magic Sculpt down on top of it to get the rough shape. And then we'll come back in and do details on those as well. Once your hands are nice and sweaty, it makes it harder to get into the, yeah, the image always messes with me. It's like, why is that not working right? Alright. I need the other glove to definitely go on a little bit easier. My hands are just too warm from being under the lamps. Alright. Yes, it's done, Ray. It's done. No more of that shakiness going on. Alright, so, still have some of that Magic Sculpt we're about to work with. Let's see. I just pulled off a little bit here. I'm going to just take a little teeny tiny bit at a time, and I'm just going to press down over top of this shape, just to get the rough idea. I didn't want to completely change the camera angle to work on this like on a flat surface. But I cut that out so that I could get it closer to what my initial concept drawing was, and not veer too far away from that. Yes, next time I will keep some powder in here. That is a very good idea. I usually keep the same pair of gloves on for the entire 2-hour stream, but if I have to like touch my computer or anything like that, it's like, nope, alright. And since I don't want them to be any larger than they have to be, it makes it even more difficult. Alright, so I'm just pushing this Magic Sculpt around. I don't want to spray any water on this until I've got the whole thing covered. And the reason for that is since it is a rigid board that's a paper base, I don't want to get that wet. But once this is completely covered up, then I can spray a little bit of water on it and it'll smooth around and move a little bit better. I'll be able to throw some texture on it and stuff. I can feel the board underneath and know where there's a little too much Magic Sculpt and that I can snag a little bit off of to move around. Powder. I will definitely need to keep that next to the other elements in the office, right next to the things of rubber gloves. All right, this one's got to go just a little bit tighter. All right, that's a little bit better. I'm going to spray my fingers, even though there's still a little bit of the board showing through, and just kind of smooth this down just a little bit. And then once I have this, I'm going to let this sit, and then we'll put some texture into it a little bit later. So when you first start putting the Magic Sculpt down, you want to give it a little bit of while to start to set up before you start working texture in, because if it's too soft and too recently mixed together, it makes it a little bit tougher to work with. Okay, so before I go in and do the other claw like that, let's go ahead and start doing some more build out on this guy, just so that he starts to feeling a little more like he should. Hey, is what your mom and dad? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put these here and start just building up the ridge line a little bit for what I saw in the original drawing that I did. I want this to kind of come up and then have a little crevice in the center. Oh, right on. Hello. Thank you for tuning in to my creature curations. Alright, so now that we've got this bulked up just a little bit, I know that roughly where I want the eyes to be. So let's see, should I go ahead and place those in and we can build up around them? And then, yeah, let's do that just for now, get some eye placement going in. I always feel better once they're actually, once the creature's looking at me a little bit. Okay, now this guy's got a lot of eyes, and the spacing is going to be a little bit like this, and a little bit like this. What makes the thing that I'm applying on top adhere to the base layer? You mean on top of the Magic Sculpt, Ray? Because the Magic Sculpt will just kind of cure and bond everything in place. And it'll just kind of grip in. Like, Magic Sculpt so far has gripped into everything that I've seen so far. Okay, so I've got that rough shape there. Now I'm going to start building out, like, and right now, please keep in mind that it's super blocky. So I've never tried to use a heat gun because since it starts to cure in like an hour, I mean, it's always bonded to everything I've put it on. If it's a super smooth surface, you could like try and scuff it up so that it has a little bit of a groove inside of it, so that it could grip into it. But I haven't had any issues at all. I mean, when I first started using Magic Sculpt, I would use it on like Kid Robot toys, so it was like a soft vinyl, but was super smooth. So, and it gripped on that just fine. Okay, so I'm building out these kind of back jawbone area a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same back here. Although you cannot see that unless I turn this beastie around. Still can't see it. Alright, there we go. But like, if you smooth it in to a surface, it's going to grip on tight and just grip on good. I really haven't had any issues at all with it popping off of it. Okay. So this sculpture itself is probably going to take, I would guess, 2 sculpting sessions, just because there's going to be certain parts where I have to sculpt it and then just kind of let it sit and let it set up. But we're going to start getting some detail in here shortly. Let's block out some more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to coil this stuff in. No, you don't. Not at all. No having to score to attach. Especially like once the Magic Sculpt is dry, you can just, it'll just bond directly to previously sculpted Magic Sculpt. So I'm just rolling out coils here just to start filling in some of the other space there. Now what I want to do with this, because this is going to be something that I'm going to cast out of resin, and this isn't going to be a one-of-a-kind piece, like most of my sculptures, I'm going to try and make sure that the space around the eyes, though I'm going to have them set in, I'm going to push them in a little bit harder, I want to make sure that it's a clean, flat surface around it so that I can pop them out and I can cast the resin and then place eyes into them after the mold has been made and after it's been cast. So like here I want to make sure that it's far enough away that it's not going to hinder putting a new eye in its place. Alright. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side by doing a little line of Magic Sculpt down here. Alright, got that in place. And knowing that this is going to go in here roughly, I need to create a encasing here. So I'm going to cast the pincers in a separate casting as well. So it's not going to be, they're going to be a separate piece that gets added onto this. So I'm basically going to have to create like a mouth type area that I'm going to slip them into. And right now it's going to look pretty goofy and weird, but once it's all textured up and we get it all blended together, I think it's going to work. It's going to look just fine. But definitely for now, it's going to look a little odd. Alright, let's start blending some of this in together. I'm going to just spray this, and if these eyes on here mess up because they aren't the final ones, like this isn't the final eyes for this piece, it's not going to be a big deal. Usually I like to make sure that everything is set in and there's no water that can get into there at all. So it's not going to mess up the eyes that I've created. But you'll soon start to see how this will all start to blend in together. Thanks, Ray. It'll all start, like, as soon as I start throwing texture and stuff into it, it will all start to really come together pretty quickly, which is one of the things I like. It's like, it looks blocky, and then, whoa, all right, that's starting to look like it could really exist in my world. And a lot of times I'll be sculpting and I won't really, it'll start to take on a different shapes and different forms and different personalities. So I kind of let especially when it's something from my world and it's not like a commission or anything like that, I will let it go the course that it wants to go. Especially if like part of it starts to look like one side starts to look a little bit different than the other side, especially like mouth areas and stuff, and it starts to get a little bit more of an attitude and a personality. That's always fun. Just gonna spray this side down just a little bit, blend in the kind of side chop type thing that's coming off. Definitely looking forward to seeing the shape of all of these elements as they start to come together a little bit more. So you see, I'm just laying the water on and letting it drip. That's one of the things about wearing an apron. It's nice to allow water to just drip and go wherever it needs to go, just so you can get it nice and coated. It's almost starting to look a little fish-like in ways. Alright. It's a little too much curve there, but also at this point, I like to start looking at side profiles, getting an idea of how it's looking from lots of different angles. Why is my broadcast interrupted? Hello, broadcast. Alright. Sorry if my broadcast got interrupted for a second. I do not know what that was. All of a sudden on my screen it said, broadcast interrupted. It'd be awesome if I could throw little commercial things in there with little my creatures popping up and saying, invasion from Revilo. Alright, so again, I'm just smoothing this down a little bit more. We will start getting some texture here soon. But we're getting this shape out and starting to get a feel for this face of this creature a little bit more. And I'm going to want to, let's see, looking at the crackles. I think before we start putting too much texture into this, like before we start really putting texture into this, I think I'm going to want to put like the big bone structure coming off of the back of its head. Probably so. Probably so. Alright, so I know this is going to kind of be like this. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit and know that that's where the pincers are going to inset. Then I'm just going to blend this up just a little bit. Why does my broadcast keep getting interrupted? That's so not cool. Alright, let's see. Let's see what happens when I get my gloves over here. So let's see if it comes back on. Let's see. So is my broadcast still interrupted? Wow, I don't get why my broadcast. So I'm still streaming, and it stopped broadcasting. Okay, let's see what we can do. Totally. Totally. Is it still interrupted, Ray? Because it's looking like it's still interrupted. Okay, this glove's got to go. So, okay. Well, it looks like it's still live on here, but I don't know. All right, so, anybody else? Ray, are you still seeing it? If you are, let me know. All right, that's crazy. Well, let's see. Let me see if I can stop it and start it back up. Or, let me see if I can change this real quick and see if this does anything. Well, I don't get why. Something went wrong. We're having trouble playing this video. Alright, let's see. Alright. Wonder if the music did something. Learn more why we're having trouble playing this video. Nope. Help center is so not where I want to be. Alright, I'm going to disconnect and start all over. Let's see. Let me see if I can change the settings. And the stream key. And if anybody is still listening, I will be disconnecting and reconnecting in just a second. Videos. Live. Stand by, stand by, stand by, stand by. Let's see. Copy. Oh. Settings. All right, the stream broke, and let's see. All right, the stream broke, and let's see. And let's see. All right, I am back. Let's see, that is, I had to switch to a different video. Give me just a second. And let's go to me. And let's see what happens. All right, if anybody's watching, I apologize. I'm trying to get it back on my phone because, let's see. Nope, that's not the same video. Or is it? Damn. Where's my new video? It's not showing up on my page. There, no. There we go. All right, sorry. For anybody that is watching, I'm back. I just have to get this back up in the feed, and I need to figure out how to tag myself really quickly so it shows up on my page. Wow, I don't know why that disappeared. So if anyone is watching, can you let me know if you can, if everything is choppy or if it's back to normal? Disappeared. So if anyone is watching, can you mute let me know this? If, sorry. And let's see if I can tag someone real quick. All right, see if I can tag myself. Oh, nope, it just disappeared. All right. All right. Too bad. I will get that next time. Well, I've got to be able to get myself tagged in this real quick, especially if I'm the only one watching. Well, just mute that. Okay, audience engagement. Tag me. Why is that? Edit. Almost. Why is it? Advanced. No, basic. Oh, there we go. Tag. Almost. Advanced. No, basic. Oh, there we go. Tag. Sorry about the echo. Advanced. All right. Add to timeline. All right, sorry about that. I am back, and I do apologize for that weirdness. I do not know why all of a sudden everything got all choppy. But let's get back to sculpting this thing before this magic sculpt hardens up. Let's do this. Let's get my Salazarite where he needs to be. I'm going to spray this guy down with some water and start smoothing things out again. Let's push this magic sculpt around, make it do what we want it to do. So, I've got that. Now I'm going to go ahead and start building out a foundation on the back of its head. I'm going to start putting the spiky bit on the back, the little bone structure that's coming off the back of his head. And then once we have that, just the foundation going on, then we'll start putting some details into this guy. Okay. Now, one of the things I have to keep in mind while I'm doing this on the back of his head is I have to make sure that whatever I sculpt here, when I pour it down with resin, once this is in a mold, I can then curve it up and the air will fill in. So I'm going to have to put a straw in this for where it pours out, or I'm going to have to make a second pour spout just to make sure that resin fills in this spiky area. Okay. Go ahead and work this stuff down in and keep it blending and blending and blending and blending. All right. Got that basically, the basic structure of where I want that to be. Let's pull this up and pinch this over top of it just a little bit so it starts to feel like that's kind of jutting out from inside of it. There we go. Now it's almost time to start making with the texture. We're getting very close now. So, and again, just going to keep adding a little bit more to this as we build out this creature. Spraying it down with a little bit of water to help smooth it out. And we'll pull that out and really get that more to the shape that we want as we get a little further along. Okay, so we have the basic shape down of the head structure. I think I want to start putting some harder lines into it and start working some textures and details in. So I'm going to spray this side again, and I'm looking at the drawing that I have in the corner just a little bit, and just going to start pulling some lines, and I'm bending and moving my blade. I'm just using a flat blade, just kind of looks like a flat knife, and I'm kind of bending and twisting it as I go, so it'll get line weight variation and give it a little thick and thin as I go up and through. And then I'm just going to kind of smooth it out just a little bit with my finger, just to get some of those lines in and smooth down just a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing over here as I bring stuff up. Don't want that to start looking too much like a smile or anything coming out where the pincers are going to be, but just kind of giving it some creases and cracks. And once I get these all in, then we'll start, like, I might get a texture map and press it down to give it some more interesting grooves and stuff. But as I was saying earlier, I want here on the eyes to make sure that this has enough space so that when I pop these eyes out, I'm able to put in eyes for when I cast these and cast these out of resin from a mold that I'll make. So I don't want to have anything really serious around the eyes themselves, so they have a place to go. All right, so got some grooves there. I'm gonna look down at the illustration that I did, the concept sketch a little bit more, put some grooves just in the top area, just a little bit up here, pull some in just a bit. Okay. And then I will do the same on the other side. Just kind of spin this guy around a little bit. And now this I haven't smoothed down quite as well, since I was having those technical difficulties with the camera and the Facebook just deciding that it did not want to stream. So I'm going to go ahead and smooth these in a little bit. And that water really goes a long way with this. So, and then just going to take the old knife and dig a groove in here. Just make sure that the eyes are away from there at least a little bit more. Now I will go ahead and spray this again and pull some lines up in here. Do the same thing where I get some line weight variation. Now this one has been in just a little bit longer than the previous one. I'm going to make sure I get it from up underneath too. I want to make sure that texture carries all the way through. Pull some here as well. I'm going to spin that guy around just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to spray the top down. And then going to pull this and pull this. And pull this just a little bit more as well. Just put some grooves in the front. Then I can spray it down just a bit. Okay. And so since we know that we've got these the pincers are going to go in the front here, I'm going to go ahead and take, whoops, that eye was getting a little gunked up. I want to make sure that I don't have anything really going over top of that eye or this one, so that when I pull it out, it can be a nice clean area for the eyes to go into. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to spray this down and pull some grooves up for where, let's blend this in just a little bit. Then I'm going to pull some grooves up where the pincers are going to be, knowing that they're going to be down in here. Just make this a little more gnarly looking. Pull that up into here just a little bit. And then just keep dragging it up just a little bit. So, and pull this. All right. And so now that we've got that kind of started out a little bit more, I want to go ahead and get some texture and throw some texture down here. So let's see. Texture map, where are you? All right, I'm going to get this crackly texture map. I'm going to spray this down right in the center, and we are going to go ahead and press this down here and get this kind of going, just to get that texture happening in there. Now I'm going to press this over top just a little bit. Let's go ahead and give this a little more interesting shape here. It's going to make it a little bit harder for pulling that out of the mold, but I think this is going to be cool. I think it'll be cool to have that kind of going over top of it just a little bit. And let's see. All right. Knife, where have you gone? Okay. Kind of like that a little bit, but I don't know. Let's see. Looking texturally and at the shape of the illustration, it's a little too rigid and clean at the moment. Let's go ahead and do this over. Okay. Just make this a little more interesting to look at. Bring these shapes out so they're not so similar and so the same and so clean. Push this down just a little bit. I think part of what's happened is, and just going to keep changing the shape a little bit. Make it just a little more give it a little more interest. So since I pressed some texture down into the center area, I'm gonna keep shaping this up just a bit. Hey, honey. So the stream got disconnected. It just stopped streaming to the one that I had posted about, and so then I had to reconnect with a different key, and everybody disappeared because I don't think they realized that I started streaming to a different stream. It's good times. How are things going out there? Yeah, I know, it was totally lame. I'm assuming that was a issue on Facebook's part. I don't know. Excellent. You want to share this post and say the previous stream crashed? It'd be swell of you to do. Awesome. So you're not playing Smash with them? All right, this is coming in just a little too much. Front profile, so side profile. Think they should be closer together? Let's see. That like that. Just looking at where the pinchers are going to go. Ha! Excellent. Like this. So that's kind of where the pinchers are going to go. I think that's okay. All right, and then let's see. Looking at roughly like here. Let's do the same thing on the other side. I can try and see the exact same thing by trying to dip down, and then I came up, and then I waved a little bit. All right, that's pretty good. All right, I'm gonna do this spiky thing and break into this bone just a little bit, do it a little bit more like I think. It doesn't, that looks like a robot. No, that's no good. All right, well, shit. Okay, I can see that because they're too close together. So let's see, let's look at this. Let's look at this being here. If I popped them out, basically I just need to pop this out. Okay, just need to say goodbye to the eye for now. I need to say goodbye to this eye. Come on, eye, get out of there. That doesn't matter if it's in there or not. All right, push that down. Let's put a little bit of Magic Sculpt in each one. Just got to fill that in a little bit. We'll smooth it down. Then we'll push everything in closer together. There's an eye hidden in there, buried deep below. And then we're gonna go ahead and cut this around. And then, let's see. Let's go ahead and push this in closer. Push this one in closer. Yep, no, you're totally right about that. Totally right. Okay. And then I'm just gonna bring this down, clean this up just a little bit. Make sure there's enough room around here. All right. I'm gonna pull some lines out around each of these. So I think that'll add a little bit more. Do some little lines. There we go. Yeah, this is what it needs. It needs some of these weird kind of creep show lines in and around the eyes. This will help. This will be good. So yeah, okay. So I pulled those eyes out and reposition them. Now I'm going to have to do the same thing with the other side. But I'm going to first pull some of these texture lines up in here. Yeah, okay. And since I've got these deep grooves, I'm just going to do lighter grooves here that are just kind of weaning down and kind of a little bit creepy. All right. Nope, I think that was a good call. All right, now I've got to do the same thing over here. I've got to pop these eyes out, push them in closer together. Oh no, there goes my phone. All right, pop this one out. Pop this one out. All right, find this magic sculpt. We're just going to bury those eyes alive. Actually, let's see if I can pop these out. 1, 2. All right. So there's only one eye buried in there. Let's go ahead and push this stuff down. Okay. I'm going to turn this a little bit this way so it's easier for me to work with. Spray this down. Get that all worked in together. Get that worked in. I'm going to leave that center one where it was. And then let's get this one. Push this one in a little bit more. A little closer. Okay. Now I'm going to do the next one. Get this one a little bit closer too. There we go. Okay, I think that's gonna be much better. Thank you. You shared it as me, which is as Brian Cullen's art. Could you share it as you as well? All right. I'm gonna spray this down just a little bit. Let's get some of these lines around here. Let's creep it up. Want them to be thinner and lighter than the rest of it, than the other heavier lines that I put in coming up. Okay, now that I think we've got some of those, let's pull a few up into here. Pull some down in there as well. I don't want it to be too many that it starts feeling like fur. I still want to give it that kind of creepy-ish ridge groove feel. Okay, I think that's better. This side needs to come in just a little bit more. Let's see what happens. Let's carve this out just a little bit. All right. I think I've got good placement on those now. I'll do my best. I'll calm it down. All right, so now I'm gonna put some deeper grooves in here, pull some in, and then groove that down, pull some, do some slight detail lines up into here that'll allow the paint to grip in once it comes time. I'll go ahead and put a couple little notches in around here. And then pull some stuff down this way just a little bit. Alright. Pull some of these lines up this way. Just trying to get some more interesting lines. Slightly deeper cuts in here where the pincers are going to be protruding from. And then just a little bit up into this space. Alright. Gotta put some grooves in here just a little bit. Just make that a slightly, it's going to be a little bit harder pulling that out of the silicone mold, but I think it's going to be cool to have a slightly deeper inset ridge there. And if not, I'll just rip the silicone, and then that'll be that. Well, I think the eyes are going to work the way they are. I couldn't really deal with a smaller eye for the two smaller ones, and I had a bunch of this size, medium-sized eye. Just gonna cut this groove in just a little bit more, kind of layer this a little bit. All right. Couldn't I what? Alright, so now I'm going to do the spike up just a little bit more. Alright, add this on, and I'm going to do a little standing spraying from the bird's eye view, just so I can get this in a little bit better. This magic sculpt is definitely starting to harden up a bit. Getting a little tougher to work with. It's not smoothing into the rest of it quite as much as easily as I'd like. I am tricking you with your drawings. With my drawings. I said earlier that it might change a little bit. But that was with the sculpting. It wasn't with the size of the eyes. So yeah. I don't know. I think the eyes are going to work just fine. No. Alright, I'm putting this ridge in just a little bit for this bone structure to jut out from. It's giving this a little bit more interesting shape. Pull this just a little bit more. Okay, I think how that's coming together is looking pretty good. I think it feels like it's definitely coming out of that now. Let's see. Just want this to be up a little bit more. Just kind of pull some of these lines all the way up through, and pull some up from underneath as well. Okay, and now I'm going to put just a little bit of this texture in here, since I got that there. Alright, I dig how that's coming together. Let's spin this guy around. Spray it down over here. Let's pull some of this up. So that's a big old deep groove. Alright. And let's pull some up from under here. This is still a little bit soft. And then I'm going to pull it up just a little bit from under here as well. Just get a couple little grooves into this critter. Alright, so I've got most of this kind of mapped out and figured out the textures and details here. And so now I need to mix up some more magic sculpt, I do believe, unless, let's see, I think I'm going to put some of the textures, some of the details in here. I'm just going to kind of jam some dents in here. So that's kind of how I saw the back of the shell of this beast, just having these kind of weird indentations. Do one more. And I'll do some details around that and then see how it looks on the other side. I'm going to do similar indentation or similar details that I did up around the eyes, where the eyes are going to be. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull some slight lines just down and around here, just so that when it comes time to paint, it'll make it, give it some interest, some visual interest, and make it easy for doing dry brushing on top of them. So I think this will add to the overall shell of this Salazarite. So then I'm going to pull some up here. Alright, and before I go ahead and pull these, I'm going to go ahead and pull some heavier lines up, put some deeper grooves into this shell, knowing that that'll give me a foundation for where I'm going to build on next. And do another one. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to build up on top of that in just a few minutes, but first, let's go ahead and spin this thing around. And give some indentations on this backside. Going to try and get a roughly in the same spot, but it does not have to be perfect. Doing 1, 2, 3. Okay, that magic sculpt is definitely getting a little tougher to put the pressure on. I'm going to go ahead and get some little grooves in here. I'm just following roughly on the diameter, the outside of the little indentations that I made. And I'll figure out I'll work that slightly into the story about what those things are maybe one day. Talk a little bit about why they have those. Alright, and now let's go ahead and put similar grooves going up the side as well. Just kind of cut in just a little bit. And then one more. Alright, so now we have most of the foundation of that creature done. So this is going to be, when I do the 2-part mold, this is definitely going to have an air spout going out the top to make sure that completely fills up, which will be a little bit of a challenge, but I think I should be able to make it work. Alright, now for the underside, should I go ahead and add more to it, or sculpt into this? I think what I should probably do is sculpt into this so I'm not building up a lot of bulk underneath of it, since we've already got this outer shell that I'm going to want to add to. So that being said, I'm going to grab a slightly different tool. I'm going to grab what kind of looks like a little yard spatula rake thing. And actually, before I do any of that, see if I have any of my dental floss here. Okay, so here is a really great trick for trying to get straight lines. Grab some dental floss. I'm going to turn this guy this way, okay? And I'm just going to take this as a straight line. I'm going to do the same thing here. And look at this, I'm getting a nice clean straight line that would be much harder for me to get if I was just trying to eyeball it. And then I'll be able to use my tools and come back and put a deeper groove into it. So, all right, there we go. We've got those lines figured out. Now that I have those, with that dental floss off my hands, let's spray them down good. Try not to get the water on my computer. Now that that's sprayed down, I'm just going to grab that spatula tool and press down into it. Ooh, needs more water on this thing. Did not spray it well enough, and this magic sculpt has been sitting for a little bit, so it's definitely starting to feel a little dry. Gotta smooth this down in. Now you can sand things down after it's already set up. I try to get most of my details done and taken care of while it's still workable. I don't like kicking up the dust after it's dry with sanding or dremeling, but you can do that. And then pull in here. Whoa. Pull that all the way across. Then I'm going to use my finger to kind of smooth the edges down just a little bit. And we'll go ahead and smooth some of this out just a little bit more too. And I'll probably go ahead and throw some texture in there. I don't know, we'll see. Alright. So now we've got those lines, which are kind of like the lines of the shell. Since we've got some of that going, I'm just going to pull some little crackles going down. Not a lot, just a few. Using the same tool, just to kind of make it look a little more weathered, a little more worn, since this underside, I'm sure, gets dragged along a lot of things inside the cavern. It hits a lot of rocks and things like that. So it's going to have gotten some wear and tear over the years, even if this is a young one. I'm going to try not to poke down too hard with the tip of this and get too many little indentation holes. All right, almost getting all of these little bits here. And then I'm going to keep pulling. Pull some up here. And all right, I've almost got all of these details worked in that I want. So while I've got this smaller area, it's a little less noticeable. Even though we're not done with the sculpture yet, I'm going to go ahead and put my stamp on it so that I do not forget. Let me get a few more details over here. And then once I get these done, then So my stamp is my C for my creature curations. It's also C for colon. It's kind of like my personal branding stamp now that I use. And so let me see, it should be right over in this little cubby of tools. Where are you? Unless I knock everything over. There you are. Alright, so now that I've got that, I'm going to take this little C and I'm just going to jab this, spray this down right over here. Just kind of smooth this out just a little bit. Make sure it's faced upright and jam my mark in there. Alright, so I've got my branded mark in there. And I think all in all, let's look at the side view. It's not quite, I think I need to bring this out a little bit more, but we need to mix up a little bit more Magic Sculpt anyway, because we need to build this wall up just a little bit, and then I need to work on the pincers a little bit more. But I almost like that it's looking a little fish-like, which is okay. It's interesting. So go in a slightly different direction, but not too far out of the way. All right. Let's see. Let's go ahead and see what happens with this. Yeah, so these aren't really terrifying yet. They need a little bit of work. Those pincers aren't feeling quite as scary as they should. So I'm grabbing a little bit of Magic Sculpt because we're pretty far along on this, and we're not going to need a whole lot more, I don't think. I'm going to grab, this is the resin that I'm going to take, or the hardening agent, then I'm going to get an equal amount of the resin. Then if we need more after that, I'll build some more up. Grab a small fistful of this stuff. Alright, a little bit more. So I'm going to want to build up the sides a little bit more to give it so it's not so flat coming down the sides. So I want the underbelly to kind of be inset a little bit. But let's take part A and part B. Let's make coils out of them. And then coil of this. Let's mix these two together, part A and part B, until the grays blend as one. Sorry for the sticky sound in advance. Looking at it from the top view, reevaluating a little bit how it looks in the drawing. It's definitely changed a little bit. So I might have to make a few more adjustments to it to make it look a little more like that. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Alright, I'm going to blend these together just a little bit more. And here we go. Alright, I'm going to put a little bit right up front at first, because I'm not totally sold on this front part. I think this will help. I think closing that off a little bit will definitely get me closer to where I was kind of seeing it. Now looking down on it, the eyes are not as much like this, they're more on this plane, but that's totally fine. Let me go ahead and spray this and work this stuff in. Just a little bit, just kind of blend this stuff together into what was there before, and then I'll get some tools and just kind of work some of the same lines into it. Just going to pull this up just a little bit. Pull some of this. Pull that down just a little. And give them similar Similar shape. There we go. Feel, there we go. Just want to give that a little bit more interest. Make it a little more visually interesting. There we go. Okay, so now that I've got that re-added there, we're going to spin this guy just a little bit. I'm going to add just a bit on these sides and throw some, so bulk that up just a little bit more. What I'm doing is I'm pitching off little balls of the magic sculpt, and I'm just going to kind of roll that into place, and then we're going to just build this up here. I want it to be over top in these sections, and then we'll blend that all in. So I want this to be on a higher kind of plane, a higher level than the underbelly that's running underneath. That's the word underbelly. Okay, I'm going to pull just a little bit more and throw some right in here. Okay, now that we've got that, I'm just going to spray it down with a little bit of water and just smooth things down. Blend it in. And this should blend right into the previous magic sculpt. Should be able to go seamless, so you can't even tell that they're two separate sculpting times. Smooth that right in. And now that that's over top of it a little bit, we'll come back in with the tool in just a minute and make sure that that still has that kind of overhang feel to it, even though it's on a higher, it's on a different plane. Do this again here, and again here. Smooth, smooth, smooth. And blend this in just a little bit here. Alright, we're almost in there here. Now that we've got that, I'm going to go ahead and grab this same knife tool, and I'm going to spray it with some more water. We're going to come back in and do those same kind of grooves here. Same with this on here. I'm going to pull just a few lines up from this area as well, just to help add a little more visual interest and a little more texture. That'll definitely make it more fun to make with the painting when the painting time comes. Alright, so now that's definitely got a little more interest going on that side. I'm going to pull some of this down into here just a little bit. Alright, I think that side is looking alright. So we're going to spin to this side. Let's do the same thing over here. And then we may build up this back ridge area just a little bit. And then we will be on to the doing the pincers. 1, 2, and 3. One, 2, 3, and a little bit more, just for down here. All right, now let's go ahead and spray this down, smooth it on in, and blend and blend and blend. Make sure that smooths nice, smooth into the rest of it. Put this stuff down just a little bit. Do this here. And we'll go ahead and put those grooves back in once this is all blended in. Blend in. Get seamless. Just keep working it back and forth with a little bit of water, and it will smooth itself out. There we go. Alright, now that we've got that, let's go ahead and spray it with a little bit more water. And since those blended in together just fine, I'm just going to take the back of this knife, just kind of give it a little bit of a wave as I cut that groove up. Same thing here. I'm going to do some slightly lighter lines coming up, bring some of those details in just a little bit from the top to kind of help merge those two elements together. And then we're going to do down here as well, pull some of these up just a little bit. Put some other lines down, just this will make it a lot funner to paint, easier to paint as well, once you've got those textures in. Alright, so I've got this shell kind of coming down over top. Got that coming down there. Now we still have a fair amount of magic sculpt, and we have to do the we've got to do the pincers. But looking at this from the side, looking at the drawing from the side, kind of thought this was going to come out a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and pinch off a little bit more magic sculpt. And let's do the head. Let's add to the back here. Let's add to the back of the head just a little bit more. Let's add some more interest. Let's go ahead and cap that off here. And we'll blend this in just a second, and then we will add some of those texture details as well. So now that I've got that in, I'm just going to spray this and smooth and smooth and smooth. And blend that in, and I think that's blended in pretty good. Let's check the back side, make sure that looks like that's fine. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's go ahead and just bring some of these line details. I'll just kind of blend it all together and make it feel like it's all kind of cohesive. Bring some of those down up here. Spin this guy around. Let's bring some around the back here. So put pull some of those lines just up, just a little bit, not too much. All right, I think that definitely has a little more of the feel. Let's push this up just a little bit. I like how that's feeling a lot better now. It's got an interesting side profile. I like that this piece kind of comes out past the bone structure as well, and then it also will do the same thing on the other side, because before it was just a little too. Here, let's pull this back over. It was a little too chopped off here, so I think that definitely adds to it. So let's go ahead and see what happens when. Let's go ahead and add this over here. And just bulk this up just a little bit and kind of shape this into a similar shape as the other side. We'll go ahead and spray this down just a little bit and give it some, blend it in, smooth it out. Keep going. Get this stuff worked in. I think this one's going to need a little bit more than the other side. I think it just doesn't have quite as much. There we go. Alright, I'm going to have to smooth that one down again. Push that up just a little bit. Alright, I'm going to spin that, take a look at this, make sure that everything seems in line. It can be slightly different from side to side, but should be relatively similar from one to the other. And then we're going to go ahead and pull some of these lines in that are similar to over here. Not a whole lot, just a little bit of those lines. Okay, now that we've pulled some of those lines in, we've got lines over here. Let's look back and forth. Get a few more like little kind of detail-y lines on this side. Alright, so I think that part is it's looking pretty good so far. I'm digging that. I think that's going to work out. So, that being said, let's try and get these pinchers where they need to be. The pinchers still have quite a ways to go. So I'm going to this one's been sitting here for a while. I'm I'm just gonna try and work with what I've got here and see if I can get something out of this. And I love that the broadcast keeps getting interrupted. What is that about? Okay, where is the drawing of the claw or the pincher? So I've got this. It's not really working to what I had drawn and what I had cut out. So I need to look at the drawing just a little bit more and see if I can replicate that just a little bit. I'm pretty sure I can get relatively close to what I had envisioned. Alright, gonna shape this out just a little bit more. Let's get this on. Let's get this on. Let's give it some points and some juts and stuff that is really gonna make it feel like it's gonna do some bone crushing action. Like you get caught in the pinchers of this this critter, it's really gonna snap some stuff. Alright. So I've got some basics down here. I'm going to spray this down. Now I'm just going to smooth it out and try and blend it all together and see what happens. See if I can get it to a good shape. And then if we get it to a good shape, then I'll start throwing some texture into it for the pinchers themselves. So these pinchers, in my world, if you keep one of these on you, it is a symbol of luck. It is a symbol that you have gotten through and survived a fight or an encounter with one of these creatures, and you have lived to tell the tale, which I think is going to be a fun little bit of story and piece to go with it. Yes, okay, so this is definitely starting to feel right. So this is almost there. The shape is right, but I need to bulk it up a little bit. It needs to be a little bit fatter, like just in certain areas so it's not so flat. But because of that, I want this to dry before I add more to it. But prior to it drying, I need to put a little bit of details into it, just in case certain areas don't get bulked up. So I'm going to look at my drawing and I'm going to pull some of these grooves and stuff into it, and then I'll sculpt on top of this again tomorrow so it can be finalized. And I need to see if I have any silicone that I could go ahead and actually cast these. So it would be great if these were cast and ready to go. Okay, so that one, I'm gonna, or if I'll set this on top of here and hope that that does not completely stick. So now I've got one more piece of this this board. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can go ahead and lay this down on top and see if I can make a very similar shaped one and get it pretty close to the previously sculpted one. So I'm just gonna press this magic sculpt down, and so that you can see this a little bit better, this is kind of roughly the shape of it. I'll bulk it up here and here just to give it a little more depth, but for now that's how it's going to have to be while that dries before going and putting any more detail into it. It looks like this piece of board accidentally set, and some of it got sprayed on a little bit too much, and that's why I talked about this being paperboard. You don't want it to get wet, because then it'll just kind of fall apart on you. So let's see what I can do to get this base shape down. See if we can get it slightly rigid, get some basic shape out of it, and then from there, get a few little details in. But I don't know what is going on with my stream. I don't know why it's being so choppy. But it's been pretty strange tonight. I haven't adjusted any of the settings since the last time I streamed on Facebook, so I don't know what's going on with that part. All right, I'm gonna press this down here just for a minute, just to get some basic shape. I'm sorry that it is out of camera for this. Let's see what we can do. And I'm just gonna kind of get that shape in, peel it up off of my my mat just a little bit. Okay, this is way bigger than the other one. Maybe one pincher is always larger. I don't know. Seems a little bit odd. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just lay this down here, kind of sculpt side by side. It will help me try and get a similar shape. Make sure I get some of the same elements with the pincher. And then I'm going to, I know it's not very fun visually to watch me do this part when I'm not a good angle for it, but hopefully I'll hold it up and be able to show you what the end results were, and they will hopefully work out to my liking. So inside that paper, that rigid board is really soft. It's very flimsy now, which is so not cool. It must have been right underneath where I was doing a lot of spraying, because it shouldn't be so wobbly. But I mean, once the magic sculpt cures, it will be totally fine and completely rigid. That just makes it a little more challenging at the moment to try and work with when I'm trying to add these little pieces on and get good shape to it. But it's going to happen. I'm going to make this work. It's going to be rad. Come on, claw. Come on, pincher. I want them to be relatively close in size and shape and everything, because when I cast these out of resin, I want to be able to cast multiples of them and use them for other things as well. Like I said, like these are essentially like good luck charms in my world. I want to make sure that they're that I can use them in additional avenues. Let's see. So that's relatively close in size. This one's a little bit bigger, but it's not too far off. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and cut some grooves into this, and then let this one dry so that it has time to cure just a little bit. And then I'll bulk up on top of it after this is set up. So let me go ahead and flip that side. Alright, so now I have two pinchers that need to dry, and then I'll build them up just a little bit more. These will go directly in here. I've got a little bit of magic sculpt. I dug out just a little bit more than I needed for this. Let's see if there's anything that I feel that this is missing at the moment that needs some addressing. Let's see, looking at the face, looking at it head on, if I envision the pinchers coming out of there. No, I think those are okay. I actually kind of like the shape that this thing's taken. It's different than what I originally envisioned, but I dig where it's going. So, that being said, I should probably put some lines and texture under here. See if I can get any. Yeah, it's still workable. Pull some up just a little bit up into here. Pull some up here. Alright. Just wanted to make sure I didn't leave anything hanging out there too much. Alright. So we've got that. I've got this extra magic sculpt. There was something I need to do if I had some extra magic sculpt. What was it? So it's definitely coming down more at an angle like this and not so much flat and rigid back like this. But I dig that. I like the new shape that it's going in. The back side is looking good. I'm cool with that. Alright, so I've got just a little bit of magic sculpt. And I don't think I've got anything I really want to use it on. Let's see. So now, because I want these eyes to set up and I want it to be easy to put eyes in and out of, I need to pop these out while it's still pliable. It's one of the nice things about if I would have ahead, press that down. Or actually, let's go ahead and dig that out. And here's why I'm going to dig it out. Well, I want to make sure that there's plenty of room when it comes time to put eyes in. It's getting tougher to pull this stuff out. Okay, I'm going to grab a slightly different tool. Oh, I'll grab this one. It's almost like a dental tool for pulling stuff out. Let's get these pieces off of here that have built up a little bit. Let's get that off of there. Okay, let's do the same thing over here. There we go. Okay. Just trying to scrape some of this out. Okay. Just gonna scrape this out a little bit more. Should be good. If I need to, I can always drill it out just a little bit. But I want to basically, there we go. So one of the things that if I dig a little bit more out than what's there, it'll allow me to put some magic sculpt in there when it comes time to put the eyes in. So it'll make it a little bit easier for building them out. Just taking little chunks out, do a little bit at a time. Try not to mess up the details around the outside. Okay, you know what, I think, pull it around this way. All right, I think that's good. There we go. Now we're going to spin it. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So, hey Russ, my stream got all jacked up because it decided that it did not want to stream. So then I had to stream to a different. I had to cancel that one and start again. Thanks, man. No, it wasn't hard at all doing it on the phone. Just looking now to figure out where I just lost an eye, because I only have the exact number of these small eyes, and I want to redo the. I'm basically popping the eyes out now, so that I can redo them. But I wanted to have these out so that when I cast it, it will be easier. So that when I cast it, it will be easy to go ahead and set them in. But the stream's been acting stupid. I mean, seriously stupid. Alright, well, I lost one of the eyes. Hopefully it'll show up. I'm going to pop the other eyes out. I mean, but for 2 hours of streaming, I think this guy's come together pretty well. Just dig out a little more of this magic sculpt out of there. Digging out just a little bit more there. All right, we've got 2 more eyes to pop out. Got that one came easy. carve this out just a little bit. Ugh. It's under my desk. There we go. Pull a little bit more this way. Just gotta dig some of this magic sculpt out. And a little bit more. And so, I don't know if the stream keeps fading in and out. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if I haven't changed any of my settings. I don't know if it's Facebook being wonky or what. I was doing that earlier. It's harder to mess with the settings and stuff when I'm wearing the gloves. Alright. Almost done. Oh, there's that other eye. Damn. Totally got buried in the magic sculpt. I'm going to have to try and clean those off really good. All right. I think that's it. I think that's going to be it for tonight. I've got all of the, I've got the eyes pulled out. I've got all the main sculpting done. I've got to build up the pincers a little bit more before it's all said and done. But I've got to go ahead and wash these eyes off to get them nice and clean. And yeah, that's it. So that being said, thank you for anyone that's tuned in or anybody that is watching after the fact. I'm Brian Cullen, and these are my creature curations.